How's it all? Welcome to another edition of Project Legacy. This time with no figure this, figure that. This time it's Grant's way of leaving my accident behind for the people who love us to know what actually happened.
Indeed.
So I'll start off with, I'll just read this from the laptop and then we'll go from there. Alright, you ready? You ready, Muerte?
I'm ready. Thank
Okay,
you.
here we go. Finally, that day has arrived where I'm starting to chronicle my medical journey from day one of the accident. From the accident itself, I've been asked to do this by quite a few people to write the journey that actually occurred. It's only after starting Project Legacy, Figure This, Figure That YouTube channel with my best mate Muerte, Grant Ashington, that it became a necessity. So we're documented for our families, i.e. like our children's children and so on. So I started this as day one, the time was 11:48, June 06, 2000. It was a day that changed my life forever. Myself and my ex-wife, I'll call her Alexis for the sake of the story for now, other than the real one. So Alexis and myself had left our jobs, sold everything we could sell, and were staying at my in-laws, waiting on that moment where we could assemble what cash we had, pick up our passports, and begin our new life over in the UK. We had been married for 6 months and were super excited to get on with the adventure ahead. The day arrived, it was a Friday. We had got up knowing we could go pick our passports up at the British Embassy in Pretoria. Alexis's mom, who was an angel by the way, had given us 100 rand to go have breakfast before we go pick up our passports. While we were at breakfast, we had phoned Grant and his wife Debbie to arrange a braai, which for us South Africans is a barbecue, for that afternoon. Okay, so now we have set in motion the whole saga that lay out before us that would occur from the time of that call. We went to the embassy and we were at this moment still giddy in love from just being married. And believe me, I was happy. I knew to my core I was happy and it showed. I really, really loved Sue. We were really good together. And that was it. As we came out the embassy, as Grant will attest, it's almost like a court session, isn't it?
Yeah. Are you feeling okay?
Yeah, I had a bit of a moment there, but it's cool.
Yeah. It's difficult. I think the whole journey will be quite hard in certain ways, and I think in other ways it'll be enlightening. And I hope that that as we unfold, we
begin
just show
to make
what it's
sense
all
of
about.
why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because it was quite a medical adventure that me and my medic crew went on over the first, the 6 years, but the first 2 years in particular, that's when everything kicked off.
Okay. So I think with questioning then, you guys are, you've had breakfast together.
Yeah, we phoned you.
Yeah.
We've,
Arranged
because obviously
everything.
we're leaving you behind,
Yeah.
we're going to UK. We had no idea then that Grant and Debbie were also going to the UK. But that's something else anyway.
Yeah.
So we phoned Grant to organise the braai. This is important for later on. We go to the embassy, we pick up our passports. Now, if you go Pretoria Embassy, the British Embassy in Pretoria, there's a 4-lane road either side of it. One way up, one way down. So cars are coming off the highway onto the 4 lanes into Pretoria. And obviously the other people from inside Pretoria are using the other 4 lane to come out.
Yeah. And the highway being motorway.
Motorway, yes. So it's always been bad for parking. at the British Embassy. It's a very small parking space for you, and there's a lot of people use it. It used to be in Johannesburg till it moved through to Pretoria. We get our passport. We had to park on the other side of the 4-lane road, which is usually safe because there's traffic lights up at the top, and if they turn red, there's no cars coming whatsoever, except from a yield sign from the 4-lane going up. You could yield sign off it to come onto the 4-lane going out. So as me and Sue are walking across the road, a car comes to that yield sign. We see him, he sees us, was a Jetta, and he waved to us. He says, okay, go now, I've seen you, go, carry on. By this time, we were in the 2nd lane of the 4-lane.
Yeah.
This young girl with her mom in the car, that's debatable, she says it wasn't, came round the yield sign, seen the car that had stopped. She was going too fast, so she had to come around the side of him and straight into me and Sue walking across the road. So I did see the car coming. I seen it coming. I knew what was going to happen. So I pushed Sue out the way. But the car was going that fast that the glancing blow had caught her, threw her up 2 stories in the air, past Jaguar's main showroom and business up above, that they had to excuse everyone from Jaguar that afternoon because of what they'd seen. So Sue flew up in the air. She came down and landed on her head on the corner of the curb. Me, I got obviously hit in the legs. I took the full brunt of it in my right leg. It dragged me under the wheel arch for 30 meters. I didn't pass out once, believe it or not. Don't ask me what I looked at in that time. I remember seeing wheel and suspension and all sorts, but you know, that whatever goes through your mind at that time. Right, so car stops.
Is it a flashing moment or what? I mean, just
no. It's real. It's happening, and time slows down. Time slows down. It's not like you see in the movies where everything's whoosh and it's gone. Which I'm sure it is like looking from the outside, but for me in it, I was in it, and I remember every minute of it. So now a car stops on one of the 2nd lanes. He stops. And another car stops. Now I've got cars whizzing past me on the other 2 lanes. An off-duty female traffic officer comes. I'm screaming, where's Sue? Because I couldn't see Sue. I tried to get up. And when I got up, my right leg snapped. Because I'd lost 10 centimeters of bone from there. I thought it would be easier.
No.
So, and broke this leg. The other damage wasn't picked up until later when I started to walk. But for then, my 2 legs were totally smashed. I remember them when you see it on the movies when they pull that bone back together. Now, all that they could do was get the pulse back. They couldn't put the 2 bones together because they had the 10 centimeter bone in their hand. So anyway, all this is going on. I'm screaming for Sue. Where's Sue? No one's telling me nothing. Little did I know, she was basically at death's door, lying on the other side of the road where I couldn't see. So the off duty.
So she'd gone up into the air and landed on
her head, on her curb. She landed on the corner of the curb with her head. So she's lying. You get private medical aid ambulances driving past and stopping and asking you, have you got medical aid? And obviously we hadn't because we'd left our jobs to go overseas. And they would just drive on. They wouldn't even check quality of life. Nothing, just drive on. So I had to wait for government hospitals, ambulances to come. The first one came, it took Sue. So I was there for about 3/4 of an hour to an hour lying on the road. The girl that hit us had gone. She'd left the scene of the accident. I picked her out of the crowd when she came back. I knew it was her. And she came back with her husband. And she didn't get done for negligent driving, anything like that. That's just another story. That's a court case.
I think just on that, we spoke now about how quickly it happens in reality or in real time, but in your mind it's quite a slow process.
Yeah.
But her driving towards you, you could
seen her. I knew what she was doing. I seen she was talking to the person in the passenger seat, and as she turned to look, I seen the shock on her face as she seen us two walking across the road. She just came up behind the guy, talking away, swerved round him, still talking, and bang, hit us. And that started a whole load of operations after operation after operation and all this time, it was just a horrific time. When we get to the hospital, well, actually, we're still at the roadside, and the traffic officer now has my phone. And she opens the phone up. There was no lock codes and all that shit in those days. She just opened the phone book. And Grant was the first number that came up because I'd just spoken to him just before about the barbecue.
Yeah.
So I says, phone him, E.T., phone home. And I can't remember any, I remember pain when they pulled the leg together, but I don't remember any pain after that. I can't recall being in pain at all. I think maybe the trauma was too much for your body to cope, that your body blanks it out almost. Because I was coherent the whole time.
Yeah, I know you were coherent because I was with you. Well, when I got to the hospital later that day. I saw you. But
I finally got to the hospital, but I told Grant he had the
responsibility maybe
to tell my mom and dad, or my dad, or my mom what had happened. And I think you got hold of my mom.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. There's one thing I wanted to say was that although we were good friends, it could have been any number of people that was the first person that was on your list that day. Could have been your mom, could have been your dad, could have been anybody.
No,
but it just
only been one of three. Only one of three.
Yeah, because you're leaving. That's right. Yeah, there's only certain people that we've been in touch with.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Plus, it was just great that it was you because I knew I could rely on you to get shit done.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You know, for you to curb all that responsibility and gather everyone, because you got Sue's mom and dad and brother and you got these whole families Grant had, and they converged on Pretoria Academic. Grant was already there with me. And we were having conversations, obviously about the accident. And I was kind of man down at that time, I suppose, but my spirits were still up because I didn't still know. They wouldn't tell me where Sue was.
Yeah.
They kept on saying she was in surgery, and I knew surgery, that's, you know.
There was a strange thing that happened that day when I spoke to whoever it was that I spoke to that phoned your phone. She told me about you, and she told me about, but it sounded like there was something quite minor with you. You were in an accident, but it wasn't going to kill you. And then when I spoke, then she said about Sue, and she said, all we can do is pray. And that was hard.
Yeah, no, it was.
It was really hard.
Yeah, Sue was in a coma, induced coma. After being in a coma, they induced a coma because her brain was still too swollen. Alexis, sorry.
We've used her name so
they
many
had to
times.
put a shunt into her head and all sorts, feed her by tube, the whole thing in a coma. But now I'm in a teaching hospital, Pretoria Academic, it's for the university, but top doctors in the world, because they go there to teach and also to learn from other misters or professors or whatever. But the aftercare, the nurses, the people you meet along the way, Yeah, it's a sight to behold, eh? It's a sight to behold. When you're crying out in pain and there's just no one, eh? No one. I soon learned to give the nurses gifts of biltong, sweets, because then I knew if I rang, they would come for me, because they liked me because I was friends with them. But yeah, it was horrific. When I first got there, my mum and dad, Grant and them left. My mum, Auntie Sheila, and my dad stayed there, and it's an hour and a bit drive from their home. Takes a good hour to get through. They stayed with me up until about 8 o'clock. I still hadn't been seen by a surgeon or a doctor.
No, I mean, from my side, walking in and seeing you on a gantry, which was pretty much a gantry, a flat piece of metal, a gantry, and over your legs was a sheet, a bed sheet, and blood was dripping from the gantry onto the floor, and I was standing looking at it, and I don't know, I think at that point you were calming me down, because I think you'd obviously been there for a while, so you knew it was shouting and screaming wasn't going to make a difference.
Yeah.
So
I knew I had to get on with it.
Yeah, you got to calm down. And I think for us, we saw Sue before we came to see you.
Yeah, well, you found out about Sue, yeah.
Well, the way that we walked,
didn't tell me.
No, but we walked past her. I think it was completely by accident.
Accident, it was by the surgery.
Yeah, so we walked past the glass door and we saw her lying on the hospital bed.
Yeah, when she got to the hospital, she was pronounced dead on arrival. She was lying on the table in the I don't know if it's the morgue or if it's the room before the morgue, whatever. Anyway, the senior neurologist had called it, and a young up-and-coming neurologist said, "Do you mind if he has a look?" So he went and had a look, and he said he's seen sign of life, a spark of life in the eye, and he said, "This one's a fighter, I'm going to save her." And there Sue's saga begins. The coma, the rehab, which is a whole nother story on its own. Because I had to go to the rehab every weekend to be with Sue, because she didn't want me out with other people. Well, with Alexis.
Yeah, I think we'll live that one down.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think
I only went into theatre 12 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
And they still wouldn't tell me about Sue. I'd sent my mum and dad home. I woke up the next morning, they put a nail, which is an aluminium nail, from the knee to the ankle. So you've got the 2 screws in your ankle and the 2 screws at the top below the knee. The other leg, what they'd done is they'd used my calf and pulled my cut away from the calf and moved the calf muscle around to cover the hole where the bone had smashed through. So there I lay, awaiting visitors, awaiting news. Obviously my mum and dad were there, crack of dawn, I'm sure. My mum was on the phone to the doctor, Dr. Lawrence, the young guy.
Yeah, we still showed a picture on one of our previous episodes where you had the pillows behind you and you said, you had to bring your own pillows in and all of that sort of thing. Yeah. But I think, I know we want to keep the episodes as sort of condensed as possible. Yeah. But just that part, I just want to go past where I walked in and saw you, and just I don't know. There was something that I felt we needed to highlight there, but I think at that point when I saw Sue, she was you could tell it was her, but it wasn't her.
No,
there was so many tubes and
swollen
and everywhere. Yeah. So it was it was horrific. It was really was. So that's why I didn't tell you about it, because I had that in my mind when I came to see you. So then I'm standing by you and there's blood dripping on the floor next to in your gantry, and I just want to I don't know. I just felt it wasn't good enough.
You know, like when your mom arrives, when your mom and dad arrives, everything's okay, because your mom's there.
Yeah.
I only found this out afterwards, but my mom can be fierce, eh? She's left us now, sadly, but she's fierce when it comes to her kids and her family. And this black watch boy outside of emergency said to my mom, no, she's not allowed in this part. And she said, what?
Yeah.
Out my way. No one stops me from seeing my son.
Yeah.
And she was in. So I was trying, you know, if you have a bump or a scrape, you always show your mom. You know?
Pain, yeah.
So all I can remember saying to my mom, do you want to have a look? Do you want to have a look at my leg? And she's going, no. No, because I want my mom to tell me what her view is of my leg.
Yeah.
Because no one's told me anything by now. But yeah, everyone was just stoic faced. You can imagine it was an horrific night. I went to theatre 12 o'clock at night.
You know, I just remembered something. You know those flat sheets that gather liquids? They wrap that around your leg.
Yes.
Because when we lift the sheet up, I couldn't see your leg.
Yes.
Your leg was covered in that stuff.
Yeah.
So to actually see your leg wouldn't be possible because you'd have to pull all of that open.
Just open. Oh,
Yeah.
So no, when I was in emergency ward, they took that off. They were doing the dressings.
Oh, okay.
They were doing a new dressing.
Yeah.
To stop the bleeding.
Okay.
Because it was dripping through.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying to my mom to have a look. She had to go get the nurse had to go get dressings and shit to come back. And I'm trying to lift the blankie off to show my mom what my leg looks like.
Yeah.
But yeah, that started. I'll tell you what. 2 years. I had 36 operations on my two legs, predominantly my right, and that was 36 operations under general anesthetic.
Yeah.
There was abscesses, there was staphylococcus, there was fixators. I had the first fixator on just to hold the leg in place, let the ends of the bone granulate. Then they had to start a whole process of filling in that 10 centimeter because they couldn't use the piece that came out. I can't remember why. Maybe too contaminated or whatever. And no, it was just,
I think for me, I'm quite happy with what we've discussed so far because I'm hoping it gives the viewers an understanding of where we're starting from as an operation point of view because
it's funny
it gives you the day, the time.
I've got so much to say. We've talked about this, as you can imagine, for 20 years. And there's so much that I want to convey that I'm actually forgetting it as I'm sitting here because I'm trying to remember it to convey to you. So I am jumping here and there. And Grant's trying to rein me back in because I'm going too fast. And but at the end of the 2 years, when they finally said, okay, plaster's off, you can start walking now.
Well, that just set off a whole new
chain of events
because the injury that you suffered on your back during the accident was never picked up because you hadn't walked for 2 years.
Because I hadn't walked for 2 years,
So,
and when I did walk with the plaster and the fixator, it was with a Zimmer.
Yeah.
So I did get backache, but we all put it down to the Zimmer. They still MRI'd me towards the end of the 2 years. And I don't know, there was a bit of a mix up there because I remember the surgeon screaming, why is he getting an MRI? So who knows if they seen anything or not, but my back went. 2 discs herniated as soon as I started walking. But after that 2 years, the mister said to us, the guys that I'd met during the course of the clinics, they did a survey. Would you have rather kept the leg and gone through this 2 years, or would you rather have had the leg taken off right in the beginning? I would have rather had it taken off. I would have got a decent prosthetic from third party. I would have been fine. It might have stopped a lot of other injuries to my body, either from medication or from movement or whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a really interesting tale. It's it's so complex, but I'm going to try and simplify it as much as possible. We're going to try and just talk as we are now, just talk about stuff, and we'll go through, the times that we've had, and there'll be good times, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of fun as well.
Well, I'm just trying to think back on that day if there's anything else they need to know. I mean, the private medical aids coming past you and just leaving you, that's horrific. It's just the outpouring of love that you surrounded with that first, when the accident happens and people are just gathering around you. It's so amazing to actually think these people care that much for you that they're here because of the accident. I know it sounds silly, but there was dozens of people that came, dozens, because Sue was a popular girl. She grew up in Kempton, and that's where we were living, in Kempton Park. My family's been in Kempton Park for years, although we were from the Joburg side. We'd only just moved through to Kempton prior to the accident, basically 2-3 years prior to the accident, 4 years, maybe more. I can't remember. So there was it was a horrific day. I'll try and think of more. I need to write things down. I think, as Grant says, we've tried to convey in here, but you can't convey the horrificness, if that's a word, of that day. You can't. It changes your life in an instance. Everything from then on changed. My whole life changed. To now, 20 years later, I'm suffering from what doctors refer to as premorphiditis. It's illnesses that could kill you as a result of the accident. I've been rushed into hospital a couple of times. They never can put their finger on what's causing me to fade away when I do fade away like I do. But that's another story for the end of this story.
That is jumping to where we are today. Which is cool. It's a good story. But I think on the Project Legacy side, telling our grandkids about what happened, we obviously want to do this for other audiences as well, but I think for our grandkids it's nice for them to be able to understand why, how something so quick can change your life so drastically, and that can happen for good things and for bad things, all sorts of reasons.
As my physio, Alexis used to work for a top attorney or advocate. He was top of his game in Sandton. He was Nelson Mandela's trademark advocate. So you can imagine, and Alexis was his PA. And I've actually forgot what I was trying to convey there with that story. Oh, it was Don, sorry, I won't say his name. It was Alexis's boss knew the head physio at Pretoria Academic, so she took over my case as regards to physio, and she once said to me, and I took it with me all this time, that it can't always happen to somebody else, sometimes it happens to you. And that's it. In a second your life has changed, but for that we'll talk about that later. For now, this is the Don signing out with my Grail Batman and my Grail Iron Man quarter scale.
They are outstanding pieces. This Iron Man is a new addition, so if you guys want to see that, you have to go onto the other channel, I think. You see figure this, figure that. There'll be a review and bits on that.
So for now,
thanks for your time. Thanks for spending time with us.
Peace out.
Have a good time. All the best. Bye-bye.